Jordan Love can't play football. Simple as that.
Green Bay knows he can't play. They rolled the dice. They whiffed.
This is going to be a predictable disaster with Jordan Love in Green Bay.
You sure about that?
Jordan Love's ascension to one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC is not just a testament to his personal growth, it's a masterclass in patience and development by the Green Bay Packers. And as a Broncos fan stuck in quarterback purgatory, knowing the best quarterback my team ever drafted was Jay Cutler, seeing Green Bay go from Favre to Rodgers to Love makes me feel like this.
You can't keep getting away with it!
They can't!
You can't keep getting away with it!
But they did. 2020, the Packers were slammed by their fans and their media, and of course passive-aggressively shamed by their incumbent starting quarterback Aaron Rodgers for spending the 26th overall pick on a quarterback out of Utah State, a school that hadn't produced an NFL QB since 1989 when the Bears took a flyer on Brent Snyder in the 7th round. And this guy, Jordan Love, was supposed to succeed a first ballot Hall of Famer? Until this season, all Love was known for was giving Tom Grossi his first million-viewed video.
Please God, not Jordan Love!
Are you shitting me?
So today, here on That's Good Sports, as requested by Jason Whitlock, we are going balls deep with Love into Packers quarterback Jordan Love. Love's a man who's gone from question mark to exclamation point over the course of just a season, and I'll reveal how the Packers do.
Keep getting away with it!
Today's episode is sponsored by Good Chop, and my code, that's good 120. That code is going to get you $120 off your first 4 boxes, and what better way to start the new year with the resolution of treating yourself to better meat. Trust me, Good Chop has better meat. The best meat, in my opinion. All the food is sourced from the US of A, and you can customize your box with 100% grass-fed ribeyes, T-bones, wild-caught salmon, free-range and organic chicken, chicken wings, pork tenderloin. If it's meat, they got it. Plus, they've added potatoes, au gratin, and smashed red potatoes, which are a delicious and perfect side with my steaks. My wife Jess's favorite cuts are the grass-fed filet mignon. My favorite cuts are, yes, all of them. Now, we only had 2 fillets left, so I just cooked all the ribeyes I had to go along with them. You pick a box size, select which meats you want, and then it arrives at your doorstep. So you're saving time and money with their cost per meal starting right around $3.74, which is great considering you never hear people say, I just have too much time and too much money on my hands. So go to goodchop.com/YouTube and use my code, that's good 120 for $120 off your first 4 boxes today. Jordan Love was the MVP of the New Mexico Bowl, which means he received a lifetime supply of New Mexico green chili. I don't even know why he needs money, if you got that. That's for you, New Mexico. Now, Aaron Rodgers was the MVP of the NFL twice, and in Love's first 2 years with the Packers, Rodgers would win 2 more in a late career resurgence under Matt LaFleur, who had totally rejuvenated Aaron Rodgers after Mike McCarthy's tenure had fizzled to an unceremonious end. In 2020 and 2021, before he was doing Epstein List predictions on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers was at the peak of his QB powers, throwing 85 touchdowns and just 9 interceptions over those 2 seasons. Unreal numbers, and yet it was readily apparent that the Packers needed more receiving depth behind Davante Adams, especially in their 2 playoff losses, those years when the offense clammed up against Tampa Bay and San Francisco. 2 massively disappointing endings to the season in their own building.
It's blocked! Touchdown!
Now, Love didn't set foot on the field his rookie season and didn't see action until year 2 when the Packers got smoked in their season opener by the Saints. In week 9, the much anticipated first meeting between Patty Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers was interrupted by a little thing called COVID. Interesting. Surely there was nothing to that story. And it would die then.
I knew that this was coming down, that at some point I was going to talk about my status because I'd chosen to not get vaxxed for reasons that you talked about.
In that game, Love didn't look bad, but clearly he wasn't ready. And even though the Packers defense held a high-powered KC offense to just 13 points in Arrowhead, Love and the Packers O fell short. Love completed 55% of his passes for 190 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. After getting more action in a meaningless game, in Week 18, Love finished his second season with more interceptions than touchdowns, but I think those snaps were more valuable than they seemed in the moment because he was getting through some of the bumps in the road without the Packers season being shackled to his growing pains, which is the greatest gift you can give a young QB. Unless that young QB is Phillip Rivers, of course, the greatest gift you could give him? Baby clothes.
No contraception.
For 3 straight off seasons, there was a constant riff and back and forth between Rodgers and the Packers. It was fucking nauseating listening to, and I'm not even a Packers fan. Would they move on from him or commit to Love, or would they just cut their losses and their former first-round pick and stick with the guy who had been in Green Bay since the Bush administration? Was Rodgers, who is playing out of his damn gourd, worth the hassle for an organization notoriously known for not being interested in the hassle? Well, after the 2021 season, it looked like the Packers had made their decision, extending Rodgers for 3 years. But after a middling season for the team in 2022, they shipped A-Rod to the Jets. The Jets probably want that one back. And Love became the full-time starter in year 4, just like Rodgers had in 2008 after the Packers traded Brett Favre to the Jets. I think people tend to forget that Brett Favre actually played football for a year in New York, and he didn't just go there to send dick pics to sideline reporter Jen Sturger.
Want to see my penis?
Just for fun, Brett Favre threw for 3,472 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 22 picks for the Jets. And Aaron Rodgers managed 0 completions for 0 yards and was not able to defy the laws of biological human healing. Now, the parallels were eerily similar, and the question was now whether or not Love could follow the same career trajectory as Rodgers a decade and a half later. And through the first 2 games of the 2023 season, Love looked ahead of schedule. 3 touchdowns and no interceptions in a resounding win over the rival Bears. And 3 more TDs and no picks in a dramatic 17-point comeback win in their home opener. It didn't result in a touchdown, but one of his most impressive plays to me this season came in the win over Chicago. Yeah, that snap that he fumbled. A lot of inexperienced QBs in this situation might panic and go to the fetal position when that ball hits the ground, but Love never panicked and found rookie tight end Luke Musgrave deep down the field on a drive that ultimately was capped off by a touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs just a play later. The Packers began the season 2-1, and it looked like they might cruise to a playoff spot, but in week 4, the Lions put them in their place. And one loss snowballed into 4 straight. In that month-long skid, Love threw just 4 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, including 3 crucial picks and a 1-score Monday night game in Las Vegas, and the game-ending interception at Denver when Love was baited into the turnover by P.J. Locke. Having watched that game from start to finish, I can personally say that Love didn't blow me away. Sometimes, the best way to measure a quarterback is seeing how scared you are to face them. Love didn't put the fear of God into me for a second in that game. His 2 touchdown passes were kind of fluky, and his 4th quarter interception felt like a matter of not if, but when. I told Tom Grossi, who I think is a Packers fan, that Love ain't the guy. I've seen enough. You guys might be in a spot to draft a guy if you keep losing, and that's what I'd recommend you do.
You're going to tell me, looking at that game, that was Jordan Love? That was the reason why that offense wasn't working yesterday?
Yeah, 100%. A snap judgment, I knew in the moment, but after watching Paxton Lynch not be it, after watching Drew Lock, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, and to a weird extent Russell Wilson not be it, I felt like a fucking expert. But guess what? That was a different quarterback than the one we are seeing right now at the end of the season for the Packers. After that 4-game losing streak, the Packers have won 6 of 9. Love has thrown 19 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions and has rushed for a pair of TDs as well. He hasn't thrown for fewer than 218 yards in a game and has had a passer rating over 107 of those 9 games. Over the course of half a season, he's transformed from a liability and a massive question mark into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC and maybe the league in general. He's top 10 in passing yards, top 10 in QBR, and 3rd in passing touchdowns behind just Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. Given the supporting cast around him, I think Love is actually just as valuable to his team as those guys, who have a lot more to work with right now. In his first 17 starts, Jordan Love has 5 games where he's thrown for 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The only other players to do that are Brock Purdy, Patrick fucking Mahomes, and Dan Marino. That's not a flub.
There was no fucking flub. It was not a flub.
And I will never, ever get tired of that Dan Marino clip. It's not just the numbers, all right? When you watch Love play, you can see a lot of the 2 quarterbacks that came before him in Green Bay. There's a direct lineage and just 2 degrees of separation between Love and Brett Favre, and I think the NBC broadcast did a great job of showing that in their New Year's Eve win at Minnesota.
Here's Jordan Love on this touchdown pass, both feet off the ground.
You can't keep getting away with it.
Where might he have learned that? I don't know. They've had a couple of guys. There's Brett.
You can't keep getting away with
Both
it.
feet off the ground, and believe me, Aaron Rodgers did it too.
It's not just an incredible throw right here. You can see the Packers QB heritage trickling down through generations in one play, which is something I think is unique to Green Bay. They do things differently. They exercise patience, and they're starting to see it pay off with Jordan Love.
You know, when I got drafted here, I knew right away that I knew exactly what situation I was being put in, who I was being behind. So I knew it was going to come with time, that I was going to come in and learn and grow.
To find true love, you do need to be patient or rich. Real rich, and then you will find true love whenever you want it. Brett Favre had the luxury of an all-pro in Sterling Sharp. Rodgers had a loaded wide receiver room that included Donald Driver, James Jones, Jordy Nelson, and Greg Jennings. There's a lot of potential on offense right now, but Love isn't throwing to any stars on the outside at the moment. He might be making some. He's making it work with 2 second-year players and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, plus 4 rookies. You've got Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Luke Musgrave, and Tucker Kraft. None of them were first-round picks, which I am sure Love will be bitching about to GM Goody in about 15 years. And there was no Devontae Adams to bridge the gap between Rodgers and Love. He was thrown into the deep end, and it was sink or swim time with a bunch of receivers that were less experienced than even he was. But after that early to mid-season lull by the Packers, those receivers have started to step up in a big way. That's the real power of Love, which of course was used in the intro to the movie Back to the Future. That's the power of love. And now the Packers are going back to the future of having another pretty fucking good quarterback, aren't they?
The Green Bay Packers select Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it.
Even though there's a Denver Broncos clock in the opening of that movie as well. Not a Packers clock. Nobody calls McFly yellow. The Packers are yellow. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Christian Watson was supposed to be the breakout star for the Packers and Love's top target, but instead, Jaden Reed has taken on that label with 681 yards and 8 touchdowns in the first 15 games of his career. Love has thrown touchdowns to 10 different Packers receivers, and 7 of them are rookies. All of the guys I've mentioned, plus tight end Ben Sims and wideout Bo Melton. And yeah, Melton is a great name for a cheesehead.
We go to dinners at his house on Mondays. You know, he has whole people come over. I don't think I'm saying too much, but we come over his house on Mondays and we eat. You know, we go over film. You know, before the week starts, we go over film as well. So I think, you know, just the bond of, you know, staying connected with him, you know, that's, you know, is big as a wide receiver.
You don't see players in their first year as starters elevating the younger guys around them, but perhaps that's what you get when you spend a first-round pick and 3 seasons of development into a player before they actually hit the field. Sure, the results were instantaneous, but the growing pains that might have lasted a full season or seasons were ironed through in a couple months. And on the other end of that, the Packers can feel pretty confident that they got their guy. God, Lions, Bears, and Vikings fans have to be sick to their stomachs, and I don't blame them for a second. Well, like they say,
Nazareth haben noch einen Titel für uns vorbereitet und dieser Titel heißt Love Hurts.
For quarterbacks, I think the toughest part of the transition from the college to the pros is both the mental part of the game and learning to be a leader amongst men. At 21, 22 years old, these guys they're kids being asked to work with 35, 36-year-old dudes and lead them. And while a quarterback needs reps to develop as a passer, work on timing and chemistry, all of that minute shit that makes football awesome, letting a guy hang around the organization, just be in the building for 3 years to get familiar with the coaches and the players, make them comfortable in their environment. That's the Packers' formula for QB success, and it's hard to argue.
Nor you draft a quarterback high, you play him right away. So, and you look at what we did with Aaron and what we did with Jordan, I think gives them a chance to be successful.
Correct.
You know, you see it a lot. Talented young quarterback, plays right away, loses confidence, and, you know, sometimes they never get back.
I think it's a lot easier to lead after you feel comfortable in your environment, especially as a very young man. And the other thing that it takes is continuity in the coaching staff. That's something the Packers have done pretty well. It's something that if you're changing coaches and coaching staffs with a young quarterback, you're going to doom them. Listen to Tom Brady talk about it.
I was a beneficiary of a lot of coaching changes over the years because we were beating teams. They couldn't get over the hump. They were all trying to beat the team that I played for. And when they couldn't, they ended up firing the coach, which in the end helped us even more. So, you know, you think sometimes you're solving a problem by firing the coach. I don't know. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you can create more problems too.
Continuity. Now, if Love had played, say, the entire season like he has in the back half, he would be talked about as an MVP candidate. Deservedly so, if you want to actually explore the meaning of the word valuable, rather than how we treat the award, which is who's the best quarterback on the best team? Who's got the best stats on the best team? But of course, you can't just come out of the gates and play at an MVP level. Outside of Patrick Mahomes in 2018, that shit just doesn't happen. Oh wait, he also sat a year behind Alex Smith, didn't he, with continuity? How does this level of development happen? It's not all about Packers coaches doing their job, it's about Love himself as well. Quarterbacks coach Tom Clements said he's gotten experience, he's gotten better as the season has gone on. The things that we see during a game and make corrections on, he'll write down and then he'll work drills to try and correct them. So in a few words, you know, the opposite of what Johnny Manziel did. Now, the ability to make mistakes and learn from them is how players get better. And I think that's why those 0 touchdown, 3 interception games like he had against the Raiders have now gotten inverted, like Brett Favre's penis, allegedly.
My Peyton Man thing.
The corrections aren't just happening over the offseason, they're happening before our very eyes in the regular season. And the Packers knew that, like Rodgers, Love was a project, and they had the luxury of time afforded to them by a Hall of Fame quarterback still going out and winning MVPs. But they recognized that he wasn't ready from day one, and that did not scare them off like it would a lot of other organizations. Not every quarterback comes into this league ready to go out there and play. I think he needed a little time, but over the last year and a half or so, we've seen that's the next step in his progression. He needs to go out and play. That's a quote from Packers GM Brian Gutekunst just before he traded Rodgers to the Jets. That whole team knew you can only develop a guy in practice for so long, and eventually it was time to face the live bullets. But let's compare Love's numbers to Rodgers and Favre in year one as the Packers' full-time starter. Favre was 8-5, threw 18 touchdowns and 13 picks. Rodgers threw 28 touchdowns, also 13 picks, but the Packers as a whole were 6-10 coming off a trip to the NFC Championship game the year before. Love has thrown 30 touchdowns to 11 picks and has the Packers sitting at an even 8-8 with the chance to make the playoffs in a season where they were at one point 3-6 through their first 9 games. I don't really put too much stock into those cross-era comparisons, but when you turn on the tape, or really just YouTube, let's be honest here, you see a quarterback whose arm you can compare to the 2 guys who came before him, and they have pretty damn good arms. That's saying a hell of a lot. We saw him side by side with Favre earlier in the Vikings game, but this throw to me looks like something straight out of the Aaron Rodgers playbook. Calm but quick, with an unconventional arm angle, and something only a quarterback who has done a Panchakarma cleanse could complete. And God knows that Green Bay has needed Love to be every bit as good as he's been in the second half of the season, because Joe Barry's defense has been less than sturdy, to put it politely. Giving up 34 and 30 points in back-to-back games against the Buccaneers and Panthers before finally clamping down on that Jaron Hall Vikings Week 17. And when the defense did help out Love against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football a few weeks earlier, Love was nails against Mahomes. Rodgers never faced him, but Love did and thoroughly outplayed him. Another one of his 3 touchdown, 0 interception masterclass performances as of late. My favorite Love throw from that game came on 3rd down in the red zone when he bought time in the middle of chaos in the pocket, but was patient enough to let Christian Watson get open before throwing a strike in the end zone for 6. A lot of quarterbacks are bailing out of that pocket or rushing the throw, but like the Packers did with him, he took his time and it paid off. And it's going to be fun watching Jordan Love. Well, until he becomes a Jet and is accused of sending dick pics in place of financial aid to welfare recipients at their mandated darkness retreat like his predecessors. Until then, you got it, Jordan. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. Check the Balls Deep playlist here on my channel if you want to watch more videos that focus on season-long recaps or specific deep dives on players.